Hello, kind internet stranger. How's that anxious brain doing today? I hope you're okay, or at least running on some kind of low-power mode. If you clicked on this video, chances are you woke up feeling like a drunk Google Maps, endlessly recalculating the route in a city with no streets. You try to orient yourself to find the true north of productivity, to get organized. But the truth is, your motivation fairy has gone on strike. And not the polite union-approved kind. No. She set up camp in the basement of your mind, grilled your plans over an open fire, cued an existential irony playlist, and is now sitting in a beach chair, sipping an imaginary drink while reading a book titled, "The Universe Does Not Care About Your Deadlines." We live in the classic modern young adult state. Either you try to become the Tony Stark of Excel spreadsheets and burn out spectacularly, or you give up entirely and turn into an emotional anteater whose only life goal is to stay wrapped in a blanket forever. It's an endless loop of bills and expectations, like a broken treadmill at the gym. You keep running, your energy runs out, and you're still exactly where you started. But hey, before you fully embrace bargain bin nihilism and decide you were born to be a bug splattered on the windshield of existence, sit down with me for a minute. Let's talk honestly about why your internal engine shut down and why this motivation strike might be the clearest message your brain has ever sent you. To understand why we freeze, we need to talk about who's really flying this meat and trauma spaceship. Carl. You know Carl. Carl is your lizard brain. That anxious little prehistoric manager living in your skull, smashing panic buttons the moment life deviates even slightly from the plan. Picture Carl as an operator in a Stone Age emergency room. His job was simple: detect danger and scream. If a branch snapped on the savannah, he hit every alarm at once. Run, human, or your lunch. That system saved entire generations. The problem is the world changed. We invented Wi-Fi, late-stage capitalism, infinite notifications, and meetings that should have been an email. Carl, however, is still running software from 10,000 years ago. Today, he can't tell the difference between a hungry lion and an email from your boss that says, "We need to talk." To him, everything is a threat. When the alerts pile up beyond what's manageable, he does what any severely overworked employee would do. He shuts the whole system down. The motivation strike is just Carl saying, "I was not built to process taxes, social expectations, and LinkedIn. I'm lying down until this planet stops yelling." We pressure ourselves to be productivity machines, but biologically we're just animals who wanted to eat, rest, and not die. Ignore that for too long, and your body protests. Lack of motivation is simply the most polite SOS it knows how to send. Here's the cruelest part. The system we live in was designed to never let you feel satisfied. It's not a bug. It's a feature. You're a hamster running on a golden treadmill called success. The belt never stops. The reward never arrives. And there's always someone running next to you in more expensive shoes or pretending to on Instagram. Modern culture only recognizes one fuel: external motivation. Do this to get that. Study to get a job. Work to become someone. Produce to be validated. But when everything becomes a transaction, meaning evaporates. You don't learn out of curiosity anymore. You learn out of fear. You don't work for purpose. You work to avoid falling behind. And your inner engine, the one that used to create for joy when you were a kid, slowly starts to rust. Your lack of focus isn't laziness. It's nausea. It's your organism reacting to a routine that doesn't speak to who you are. No living being can run forever without knowing where it's going. Living is terrifying because there's no manual. We're born without instructions, without a mission printed on the box. To cope, we put on costumes. I'm productive. I'm successful. I know what I'm doing. The motivation strike begins when that fantasy starts to crack. When you realize you're living like Neo before the red pill. Repeating gestures, following rules, sensing that something is deeply wrong, but unable to name it. In that moment, you're not broken. You're waking up. Emptiness isn't a flaw, it's space. Space to choose something that's actually yours. The problem is that freedom takes effort, and Carl hates effort without immediate reward. Choosing is exhausting because every choice is a loss. When you choose one path, all the other possible versions of you quietly die. That's why we freeze. Standing still feels safer than taking responsibility for an imperfect life. We spend our lives searching for the perfect choice, the one that guarantees permanent happiness. Spoiler, it doesn't exist. Even the best journey has mud, delays, and deeply annoying companions. The difference isn't choosing the right path, but choosing something that feels worth carrying, even when it's heavy. Motivation doesn't come back when you ask, "What do I get from this?" It comes back when you ask, "Is this worth the cost of existing?" When your mind gets lost between regret about the past and panic about the future, everything becomes unbearable. Simple things feel impossible. That's where the unexpected wisdom of Forrest Gump comes in. He didn't understand everything, but he was present. He took the next step, then another, without trying to conquer the world. Motivation doesn't disappear. It hides when you force it to live a life that isn't its own. Sometimes the most radical act is small. Drink water, take a breath, do one thing at a time. That doesn't guarantee happiness. It guarantees enough meaning to keep going. We are living inside a constant low-grade scream. Not the dramatic kind with sirens and explosions, but a relentless hum that never really turns off. News updates, breaking headlines, tragedies turned into thumbnails, opinions screaming for attention, algorithms reminding you of everything you should care about. And somehow, in the middle of all this noise, you're expected to stay informed, emotionally balanced, productive, hopeful, and functional. No wonder you're tired. If you truly absorbed everything that's wrong with the world right now, every war, every injustice, every comparison, every reminder that someone somewhere is doing better than you wouldn't get out of bed. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system would be doing the only reasonable thing left, shutting down. That reaction isn't failure, it's self-defense. We were never designed for this amount of awareness. The human brain evolved to handle a small circle of people and problems, not the emotional weight of the entire planet delivered straight to our pockets. Yet here we are, carrying global suffering alongside unpaid bills and unanswered messages, wondering why motivation collapses by noon. This is where Tyler Durden exists, not as an answer, but as a symptom. He represents the urge to burn the noise just to feel something real again, the fantasy of escape through destruction. But that impulse isn't strength, it's overload speaking. And you don't need to destroy the world to protect your mind. Sometimes sanity requires selective ignorance, turning things off without guilt, choosing silence without explaining yourself, caring less broadly so you can care more deeply. This isn't apathy, it's survival. Empathy without limits doesn't make you kinder. It makes you paralyzed. We confuse being aware with being responsible, as if knowing everything obligates us to fix everything, as if rest were a moral failure. But you are not a crisis response unit. You are one nervous system, and it has limits. This is where melancholy enters, and no, it's not the enemy. Melancholy is a pause, a quiet signal asking for less input and more space. But we live in a culture that treats stillness like a defect, so we drown it in content, productivity, and self-improvement until we can't hear ourselves think. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is admit, asterisk, I can't carry all of this. Asterisk, shrink your world to a size your heart can handle. Focus on what's close, what's real, what's yours. You don't need to be informed about everything to be a good person. You don't need to suffer constantly to prove you care. Existing is already demanding enough, so step back. Let the world spin without your commentary. Let some noise pass unanswered. In that reclaimed quiet, motivation doesn't come back loudly, it returns gently. Soft, imperfect, but enough. And enough right now is more than sufficient. Life isn't a game you win, it's a crossing. Some days are sunny, others fall apart before 9 a.m. If your motivation fairy is on strike today, maybe she's just asking for kindness. Yoda said size doesn't matter, and he was right. Making it to the end of the day alive, despite the chaos, already counts as a victory. You're not a calculation error. You're a consciousness trying to survive inside a sick system. Breathe. The color of the wind is the color of this moment. And this moment is yours. A kiss, a hug, and please drink some water. Even Carl would appreciate it.